Ronan Ryle, and what we're going to look at today is what is your number. And what I mean by what is your number, it is what income do you want to earn from the wedding or portrait or combined photography business that you have. Everyone I talk to hates business planning. I myself am responsible for business planning, but I hate physically sitting down and working it out. And most photographers that I meet are like me. However, from experience I've learned that it's much better to know upfront, what chance do I have of making my number? Now we all know James Bond knew his number inside out and backwards. 007 continues to follow him everywhere he goes. And your number should be the same. So at 3XM, we have built a calculator to help you with some of this business planning process. So it doesn't matter what your number is. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or it's 100,000. The important thing is that you have a plan around achieving that number, so that that number lives with you every minute of every day, and every decision you take in your business is built around achieving that number. Okay, so let's just have a look to see how you can find our Know Your Numbers calculator on 3XM. So when you come to 3XM, if you go down to the very bottom and click on Know Your Numbers, you'll then have to log in, and after you log in, you can go ahead and use this calculator. Now this calculator is not designed to replace your accountant. This calculator is just a tool just to help you have an overarching view of the numbers that drive your business. So in my case, I've put in 40,000 as my number. That's the amount of revenue I want to earn from the wedding aspect of my business, which is what I'm concentrating on here today. However, the tool does work for portraits and anything else that you might do. So the first thing we do is we look at our fixed overhead. Now don't go asleep yet. Once we get this boring part out of the way, it then moves on pretty quickly. But let's just discuss first what a fixed overhead is. So a fixed overhead is a cost you have in your business, whether you turn on the light in the day or you never turn it on, whether you get 1 shoot, 0 shoots, or 1,000,000 shoots. So an example of this is the rent. If you rent a studio, and in this case here I've put £3,000 in as the rental of my studio, whether I do 1 shoot or 1,000,000 shoots, I have that cost to pay out regardless. So what I've done here is I've taken my total fixed overheads, which includes insurance and rent, advertising, bank charges, my membership, training, we should all do some training, a figure for miscellaneous, and that's calculated up as my total here has been 6,860. Because today I'm only working on my wedding photography business, and I know that 70% of my total revenue will come from my wedding photography business, I'm just going to allocate the 70% of my fixed overhead to my wedding business. So if you're doing it for your total business, you'd make that 100. And I would allocate 100% of this cost to your wedding business, but I'm going to work on the basis of 70%. So you can see that figure has changed. So if I was allocating 100% and on the basis of doing 40 weddings, my figure would be £171.50 per wedding. If I'm doing, saying 70% of that, I'm going to allocate and I get the other 30% back from my portrait business. Well, then it's now saying that based on 40 weddings per year, which I've put in the calculator, that my fixed cost per wedding is going to be £120.10. Now, don't worry when you initially do this if this figure is a massive figure, because it's only when you actually put in the number of weddings that it'll calculate the cost per wedding here. Okay, so we see up here then we have our estimated average variable overhead. So what's a variable overhead? A variable overhead is some sort of cost that you only attribute to that actual shoot. So in this case, if I don't have a wedding, I don't need to spend the fuel to get to the wedding. If I wear a suit to my weddings and I always get my suit cleaned, well, I only have that cost if I have a wedding. So that's an example of a variable overhead. So you can put down your variable overheads per wedding shoot here. There's some blank ones here if you want to add in some more. And this shows you then that your total variable cost per wedding is £65. So I only have this cost when I go to do a wedding. Okay, I promise that's the boring stuff over. Let's get on to a little bit more exciting stuff. That's if we can call business planning exciting. Necessary, but not necessarily exciting. Okay, so here we've put in an option for you to have 4 packages. And these can be any packages you want. In my case, I've chosen digital service on USB, a digital service on the USB mount box, which I use as an upsell for my digital package. I have my Album Gold package and my Album Platinum package. So here's the total price including VAT or sales tax across those 4 packages. I'm not registered for VAT, so here I have this at 0%. However, if I was registered for VAT, for example in the UK, I would have to put in 20% here, and that reduces my keep because 20% of it has to go to the taxman. But I'm going to leave that at 0 for now. And here I can see my price of packages. So the next bit is to understand the purchases that you have for that package. So because this is a digital service, I don't have an album cost. The same on my package B. However, I do have an album on my package C and an album on my package D. I sell the digital files with all my album packages, whether that's digital service or it's an album. So I'm putting a cost here of £20 to cover the USB. I also use a USB on my album packages for the images, and I use the USB mount box for an upsell here. So I put £60 in here. You may have other costs here, so you may have supply of frame that they sign, or you may have whatever else is, any other purchase you can put in here. So this is my total purchases then across these 3 packages. And my added value is the difference between my total purchases and what I have net of sales tax or VAT across my packages. So what it's doing is it's adding up all these costs here, and then it's taking these off these top line prices to give me my added value. So a good description of added value, it is the sort of money or value add that you're making on this sale, net of any purchases you have to make on the sale. So we saw a little earlier that we had calculated our fixed cost per shoot, and the calculator is bringing in that per shoot because that's the same fixed cost regardless of what package or what price I sell it for. My variable cost per shoot then is based on the same, and then the system just adds the 2 together to show me the total of my fixed and variable cost. So my net keep per shoot is my added value less these costs, and now I'm getting to a figure that is much closer to my net keep or gross income before tax for these particular weddings. So what's another consideration? I always like to make sure that I've got price consistency to look at my rate per hour that I earn from that activity. It's a great way to see, are you spending too much time on a certain area, or is there a better way to do it, or do I need to adjust the price a little bit? So down here, before we actually get into the timings, we'll see that even though the net keep on these Digital A package is much smaller than here, the rate per hour I'm earning is much more. So obviously I'd like to do more of what I get here. So if it's possible to drive more sales and do more work at this rate, that's what I want to do. Or I may be able to reduce the cost here a little bit. So if I can get my album design from 5 hours down to 3, now I'm getting much closer in price to all my packages. Does that make sense? Okay, well, let's just leave that at that for now. So we've broken this down to the time per shoot. So that's the total time you spend on the shoot, the post-production on the images, the design of the album, and then it adds up the total, and it takes this figure and divides it by the total hours to give you a rate per hour. Now that doesn't mean that we shouldn't sell these, because we may need to sell that package to do that. We may look to see, can I increase the price a little bit, or can I reduce the cost a little bit on the purchases? But overall, we're not saying that this decides what you're going to do, but it is a really good indicator of the type of packages you want to push. And the important thing then is having enough of them. Because some photographers that I talk to, they're just too busy to do any more work. So if you're too busy and you don't have any capacity, but you have an opportunity to do more work, well, then you can say, well, do you know what? If I sell more of these, I can do more of these jobs. So you can nearly do 2 jobs, 14 hours, for every one of these and make more money. But that's a lesson for another day. So I'm just starting here from where I'm going. So let's just keep on going. So here then is the total estimated number of packages of each package that I intend to do this year. Here's the estimated sales value. Here's the estimated total net keep. And here's the total hours that I expect to do. You all with me still? That's good. Let's keep on going. Because now we get to see how your number actually stacks up. So here's my sales turnover based on the 40 packages. Here's the total number of hours I'm going to work. Here's the purchases per package that I'm going to make and have to pay out. Here's my gross profit. Here's pulling in my total of variable overheads and fixed overheads to give me total overheads. And here's the contribution to my business. So we can see here, my target number was 40,000, which was, again, just a reminder, it's my pre-tax income that I wanted to earn from the photography business based on this business plan. And we can see here that I'm a little bit short. Now, isn't it much better to know that you're a little bit short at this stage? And then you can go and you can reevaluate and see what can you do. So you might say, do you know what? That wedding fair that I normally pick up 6 weddings from, it's going to cost me an extra £1,000, so my advertising is going to go up. But I can get an extra 6 packages, and every time I go there, it's the digital service on USB I get. So I'm going to go down here and say I can do 21 of those if I spend that extra bit of money. Let's just have a look now and see what does that do to my number. So now we can see by I spending that extra money going to that wedding fair, and based on the fact that I know I always get 6 weddings at it, even though they're from my starter digital service package, by doing those extra, I'm now going to make my number. So I hope you find this tool useful. We will continue to develop tools like this based on talking to you as our customers. We do this because the more successful you are in your business, the more successful at 3XM we will be. Thank you for listening to me.